Hello friends, my name is Beroz. I'm a finance executive by profession and welcome to my channel where I share with you how you can achieve career and financial success. Now today's video is a career coaching session that I recorded with one of my followers. So you can check it out. There were some smart questions that she asked and I helped her with those questions. And also we had a mock session towards the end as well where I asked her a few interview questions. She answered them and I kind of helped her how she can go about improving those answers that she gave. Now, in case you find any value from this video, I have to ask for you. One, press the like button, and second, press the subscribe button so you get notified as soon as I put new content on this channel. Now, both of these tasks will go a long way in helping me improve the quality and the quantity of the content that I post on this channel. One more call out, which is that I do offer one-to-one coaching sessions with regards to interview, career, and personal finance. In case you are interested in having a one-to-one session with me, you can book one session with me using the link that I will leave in the description of this video. Now, without further wait, let's go and check out the recording. Hello, Krishna. So thanks for joining, and even more so, thanks for opting for being on the channel and having this mock session on the interview. So this is what I recommend. How about you first and foremost start by introducing yourself because I don't know you, so you can introduce yourself. I can introduce myself as well, but I assume you know a lot about me already because you must have seen a couple of videos and the amount of content that I post on LinkedIn. So we can skip that part to save time. Then we can take some questions that you have. So I'll help you respond to any questions that you have pertaining to career, interview, and all. And then
Yes.
we can move into some mock questions. So I can ask you questions as if you were in an interview, you can respond, and then I can tell you how we can make them better. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Cool. So let's start with
First,
your introduction.
sure. First, I would like to thank you for having me here in this interview coaching session today. I was always looking forward to attending one of your interview coaching session, as in a one-on-one session, and I'm sure that by the end of the session, I'd be able to acquire a lot of knowledge with respect to not just interview preparation but professional guidance in general. So, my name is Krishna Priya. I belong to this beautiful strip of land called Kerala, and I have been born and raised in this multicultural hub called Dubai in United Arab Emirates. Right from the bustling souks to engaging multilingual conversations which echo at cafes, I've been mesmerized by Dubai's multicultural hub and its acceptance of tolerance from people from diverse nationalities. As a result, spending 25 plus years in this country, I've also instilled in myself um, a sense of empathy and a deep level of tolerance and acceptance, which makes it easy for me to function in professional and personal spheres. Growing up, I nurtured an interest, a passion for people, communication, and creativity, alongside a passion for business, which led me to pursue my Bachelor's of Business Administration degree in marketing with SPGen School of Global Management. Now, the beauty of pursuing this BBA degree in marketing from this very prestigious university is its Tri City model of program, whereby first year I was in Singapore, second year I was again back to Dubai, and the last 2 years was spent in Sydney, Australia. Though leaving for university was a bittersweet feeling, I look at it as two sides of a coin. On one prospect, I got the opportunity to pursue my higher studies while fulfilling my love for traveling. Alongside, I was sad that I had to leave my beautiful family and my nest behind. But as anticipated, my journey of my BBA degree spanning 4 years in three different cities has been a journey of self discovery, and most importantly, is something that fueled progress. Living in these three distinct cities, I got the opportunity to interact with batchmates from divergent nationalities, thereby truly submerging in myself in what I believe is a melting cultural pot. Aside to this, I also got an amazing opportunity to truly plunge myself into divergent curricular and extracurricular activities, which was a core facet with respect to developing both my professional skills and personality. I got the opportunity to involve myself and indulge in multiple um, internships, which was a key factor in developing the soft skills necessary in succeeding in today's workforce. And that has also prepared me in the rapidly evolving and progressing workforce. Aside to that, during my personal time, I enjoy whipping up some culinary concoctions, sometimes questionable ones, which satisfies my curiosity in seeking the next flavor adventure and, most importantly, fulfills my love for cooking. Aside to that, I enjoy my um, love for traveling, this time without moving my feet, which is reading and writing. And that satisfies my childlike curiosity and instills in me a deep um, importance for learning, which I believe is crucial when it comes to succeeding in life in general. I cannot wait for see what life has to unfold for me professionally and personally, and I hope to become a change maker.
Cool. Thank you. So, where are you working currently?
Um, I work as a brand and marketing executive with Cool and Cool,
Okay.
ABC International Limited. It's an FMCG company.
Okay, cool. And the way you introduce yourself now, is this how you typically introduce yourself in an interview?
Yes,
And were you reading from any script, or no, this was just, you were just saying it as you remember it?
I was just saying it. I remember it.
Okay, cool. J- just one feedback.
Sure.
I would say make it simpler in terms of the language, the
Okay.
better.
Okay.
And what I mean is, and I understand because we, especially I'm South Asian as well, and so are you.
Mm-hmm.
We have this way of expressing, especially in English, which is referred as Shakespearean language, or a way of expression. And I used to get this feedback a lot as well when I was in Procter and Gamble, and I worked on it as well. It's just the way we at times present is the way we would write, which is very different. So, for
Yes.
instance, you use some things like rapidly evolving workforce.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not a point that you're making, there's no point in using this word. And I'm just picking on this because there were a few others as well.
Sure.
But it's just that make it sound like a conversation. So when you come in an interview, make it sound like a
Mm.
conversation as against if you are reading an article. So the way you gave your introduction, it seemed as if you were reading an article.
Okay.
You would not normally talk to a friend like this, I assume. And if that's
Yes.
the case, then you should speak the way you would speak to a friend, like a friend with whom you have some boundaries. Like it's not like you are very frank. So it doesn't have to come across as frank, but it should come across as a conversation. Or if you let's even ignore a friend. Let's say you're in a party, you meet someone, and you just have to
Mm-hmm.
introduce yourself to them. I assume you would not speak like this. So make the
Definitely.
language much simpler, and and do talk about your work as well. So maybe you chose not to talk about your work now for whatever reason, but when you're introducing, you start with where you're from, what you've
Mm-hmm.
done, like education. Then you talk about your profession. Any key
Mm-hmm.
highlights is important, like things that you've achieved professionally. That is
Okay.
important. And then you kind of give a summary of who you are, like what should they expect from you. So I like, let's say if I have to speak, I will say I'm into creating strategy, executing strategy, tracking strategy. I'm into problem solving. I love team management and coaching and teaching people, and I love financial analysis. Or my experience is primarily commercial finance and FP&A, and I love these. So just giving a rounding of, because when you say a lot of things, the individual is taking notes, and as they're taking
Yes.
notes, it's difficult for them to summarize. So summarize it for them. Your job is in an interview to make it super easy for the interviewer to understand you. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Make sense?
Makes sense. That was a valuable feedback.
Okay, cool. So otherwise, good intro. Kerala, I've heard a lot about it and would love
Have
to
you ever
visit
been?
someday. No, I do have visa challenges. Like I've been to India 3 times, but my
Uh-huh.
visa is not as easy as it would be for anyone else. But hopefully, with my Canadian passport and green card and all, should be easier. Um,
Yes.
Anyways, thank you. So let's move into any questions that you have.
Sure. So regarding the tell me about yourself question is what I usually do is I take a note of key points that which I would like to mention during the introduction, because this is the only place where you get to be in the driving seat, right? But of course, when you're in an interview, there's always constraints of time. So what is the optimal time that I should be spending for this particular question?
Yeah, I won't. I would say not more than 3 minutes. 3 minutes is
Okay.
ideal. I think anything
Hmm.
less than 3 minutes is not good either. Maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Don't make it
Okay.
more than three unless there is more. Like if the interviewer is more intrigued and they want to talk more about it, yeah, then extend more than 3 minutes. Otherwise, keep it under 3 minutes.
Okay. And one more question that I had was pertaining to resume, because there has been a lot of debate about resume formats in general, because I get to hear different perspectives and opinions, especially on the number of pages. Some people say it's ideal to have a one page resume, especially when you're in the entry level stages of your career, while some people say it should be max three and not beyond three. So, what is your take on this?
Yeah. So my take is not the most common one, but I really stand by it. And
Okay,
if you are 10 years or below in your career, for sure, not more than one page. For sure. If you are
okay,
10 years and above, 10 years to
hmm,
15 years, I would recommend one page, but if you are really stressed or pressed, make it slightly more. If you are
okay,
15 plus, maybe 1.5 page. I would not
okay.
recommend going more than 1.5 page. And the reason I say this is because, sorry, you want to ask something?
No, 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 sir. Continue. I'll ask after you're done.
The reason I say this is because people don't have time to read everything on the resume. People have few seconds. So they take 5 seconds to scan through the resume and say whether they want to pick it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Those 5 seconds should be going, or their eyes should go on the most important things on your resume. If you make a 2 page resume, let's say you have 10 highlights, 10
Mm-hmm.
key highlights in your life, like your best top highlights. I doubt anyone would have more than 10. Like it would be I would be very hard pressed to find someone who has like 25 key highlights or 20 highlights. Usually there are 5 to 10 highlights that you can speak of. If I ask you now, list down top 10 projects, I think it will be a struggle for you to list down. You will be easily able to list down 5, then 6 to 10 would be slightly a struggle for you to think of top projects.
True.
But if I make you write a 2 page resume, then you'll have to fill that pages. For you to fill those pages, you'll have to think of projects over and above 10. When you start going over and above 10, then the quality of your projects or highlights reduces because you start with the top one, two, three, and by the time you reach the 20th, it's like, okay, useless. I was part of a college team. That kind of comment just starts to add up, right? So, and what you don't want is that in that those 5 seconds, instead of the look recruiter noticing the
Mm-hmm.
top five, they end up noticing top one, the fifth one, and the 20th one. And then go like, this is an average resume and throw it out. Now,
Oh,
instead, if you only have 10 highlights, which are your top highlights, then wherever they may look on the resume, wherever, they will always find something which is of quality. But if you have
okay.
20 highlights, wherever they look in the resume, there is a chance, there's a 50% chance they find the top 10 highlight, and there is a 50% chance they find an average highlight. And you don't
Mm-hmm.
want them to focus on average. So if you're 10 years experience, one page for sure. 10 to 15, maybe you can choose. I'm okay. 15 plus, maybe 1.5 and not more than that. I don't recommend even going and doing full two. So when I say 1.5, usually it's like your top highlights, top 10 highlights fall on page one, and the other
Mm-hmm.
education and interest and things like that can just fall on, or the experience that you had very fresh when you started, which are like irrelevant for the recruiter. Like when I
Yes.
started with Procter& and Gamble, I was like the financial analyst. no one cares what I was 18 years ago, right? So that one can fall on page 2. So what will
Hmm.
happen is they will read page 1, which will have all the great highlights that they want to read, and page 2 will have, like, if you have more time, if you're bored, you can look at page 2. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know what your thoughts are.
That does make sense. So I can explain it to you from the perspective of my current resume. So my current resume, the first section of the resume is a short summary about myself. Following that, it's the work experience in chronological order, with the current one being the first one. After that comes my precedent work experience. So in my case, if I discount the internships, my resume would easily be up to 1 page max. So would you suggest in including internships in the resume?
So how much experience do you have? Work experience?
Work experience too.
2 years.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 years is, so I would put in an internship. If you would have said you have an experience of 4 years or 5 years, I would
Mm-hmm.
say skip the internships, because you're still fresh. You're just 2 years in. If there are good internships where you've done some good projects, put them in. If there are
Okay.
internships which, like, you did it but they're not the best of the ones, then you can skip them. So depending on how what is the quality of the internship, put that
Mm-hmm.
in, especially
Okay.
given you only have 2 years of experience. So it will just make your resume more enriched.
Okay. And one more thing in connection with the resume is career gaps are a very commonly discussed theme in today's, you know, guidance when it comes to the professional sphere. Many people and many coaches, counselors address career gaps. So, how do I justify a career gap, especially when I am in the entry level stages of my career? So, let's say in case of women, if you have a family, a career gap can be justified, um, in the form of embracing motherhood, which does fill the gap.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's young, how would you suggest that? I mean, how would you justify that career gap?
So how
If
long is the career gap? Let's say that's the question.
maybe 6 months to an year.
So if it's below 6 months, I would just eat it up somewhere in the resume. I would not bother putting it. And the reason I say this, and how do you eat it up, is just by showing the number of years and not months. So usually people say from March 2020
Mm,
to March, ignore the March, just 2020, 2021. You don't really need to spell exactly how many days or how many months have you had that experience. If
correct.
you do this, anything which is below 6 months, you can eat it up in the resume and just avoid any discussion around it or even preparing for it. If it's more than 6 months, then it's not possible to eat it up. Then I would leave it as is. And when the question comes, you have to say as to how you were building yourself professionally or developing yourself professionally or personally during that time. So what were
Hmm.
you doing? You can say I took a sabbatical. I was writing a book. Did you finish a
Okay.
book? Maybe say no.
Hmm.
Whatever you were doing, or I decided to dedicate 1 year to my YouTube channel or to coaching. So I took time off and I wanted to do some coaching. So it has to be something. It cannot be just, even if it's you traveling the world, it should be
Okay.
about how do you use that to develop yourself. So I was writing about something. I was researching something on the world map, there has to be an element of you being coming across as someone who's responsible with
Hmm.
developing and improving themselves, as against it coming across as someone having fun. So
Correct.
don't make it sound you took time off to have fun. It should always
Hmm.
be you doing a task. Similarly, if you're having a child, that's a task. That's a task. You take time off, having paternity, maternity leaves, and all. So if they are very standard leaves, makes sense. But if it's just for travel, don't make it sound fun. Make it sound more professional. And what did you got out of it?
Okay, can we also say this one thing as an alternative, whereby, let's say, if this is a case of a contract where there is no scope for the organization to absorb you after a certain point. So, can we say something in the lines where you wanted to also okay, aside to the contract ending, which is one of the reasons, can we say that we've utilized this 1 year to genuinely explore your interest with respect to the kind of industry that you want to work in and what truly aligns with you as a person?
Say more. Like, what do you mean during that 1 year? What did you do?
So, as in, so if in my case, so one of the reasons of that particular gap was, of course, the contract had ended. There were major changes happening within the management with respect to restructuring, which is the reason there was no scope of further extension of contract, or in other words, there was no scope of an absorption, a permanent absorption into the company. So, and another reason to that was the industry that I worked for was the liquor industry, which is not necessarily in line with my interest. And my inclination was to move towards the FMCG sector, as it's something that is dynamic. And the amount of marketing done in the liquor industry with respect to learning, I feel the opportunities are slightly limited in comparison to what you get to learn when you pursue your marketing career within FMCG.
So what you're saying is your contract ended and then you were looking for another job, but it took you some time to look for a job and you had a gap.
Yes, that's one
Yeah.
part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So in that case, and what's the second part?
The second part, it's like I said, one was a conflict of interest because liquor is not an industry
Yeah.
that I
Fair.
wanted to work.
Fair. Yeah. So you wanted to change it. So you were on a contract, contract ended and you wanted to change industry
Yes.
and it took you some time to change industry and get another job. So hence you have a
Yes.
gap. Yeah. So you can explain that you were looking for a job, but you also have to say what else were you doing during that time? It
Okay.
cannot be just looking for a job and just chilling out. You have to
Yes.
add some fillers to it. So meanwhile, I started my own blog as well on the side,
So
or I
what
started
I
to write a book.
So what I usually did this, the first part of justifying the gap is, of course, the reasons that I'd indicated to you right now. Aside to that, I sort of back it up by saying that during that 1 year time of gap, I chose to pursue divergent online courses and to sort of upskill myself.
Yes, beautiful. Exactly. That's even better, by the way. That how you were upskilling yourself, what courses did you do, and all. What else? What other questions do you have?
What other questions? Yes. How to stay relevant in the present day job marketing, considering the fact that there are new advancements and it's something that's rapidly uh, developing. And like everybody says, change is the only constant now. So, how to do I stay relevant?
Yeah. So it is very important, and this is something we were talking earlier as well when we had a call. Is there are two ways of succeeding. One is going deeper into what one profession, let's say
Mhm.
finance, just picking one field, going deeper into that. And second is skill stacking, which is if
Correct.
you can't become the top 1% in a particular field, then you can become at least top in the top 20% in multiple fields. So top 20% in finance, top 20% in e-commerce, top 20% in writing, in YouTubing, in storytelling. When you start to combine multiple skills, even if you're not the top 1%, you're in the top 20%. After 5 or 6, 7 skills, you will eventually become someone who's very unique with that quality. Someone who knows finance, someone who knows e-commerce, someone who's worked across the globe, someone who knows YouTubing, someone who knows how to write, storytell. There would be very few people in the world you can find with all those combination of skills all added together. So the more skills you keep adding, the better. Hence, it is important for you or for any individual to make sure that they keep adding complementary skills or skills that will add up to their stack. And how
Mhm.
do you go about creating those skills or adding those skills? You have so much knowledge which is available on the web now. There are so many
Correct.
training forums. Just start learning. Start learning from those forums and start training through YouTube. There are some good paid organizations as well, which do provide weekly or monthly training sessions. I would highly recommend you join them, use them, take notes of them, and apply them. It is very important that whatever you learn, then you apply as well. So either you apply or you teach someone else. This is what I do. When I learn something, I teach others. Or if
Okay.
it's not something that I usually teach, then I apply. So for instance, personal finance, I love it. But I didn't know about personal finance up like 6 years back. Nothing. So I taught myself, educated myself, and then I started teaching. So that is another thing that I kind of cover on my YouTube channel, on LinkedIn as well, where I teach personal finance, how to make money, how to get rich, how to get wealthy, and all, how to retire early and stuff. That's just because I started teaching myself and hence started to educate. So just by attending a course, you won't get anything. You have to either apply it or you have to teach it. Otherwise, it won't work. So don't attend a course or a training session or try to get a skill just for the sake of adding it on the resume. You can add it on
Yes.
the resume, but it won't really matter because you won't learn anything if you've not applied it and if you've not taught it. Make
Makes
sense?
sense. Yes, makes sense.
Cool. Thank you. Krishna, so now let's maybe jump into a mock interview session if that's something you would want to do now.
Sure.
Cool. So
Cool.
let me ask you a question and then you respond based on what you know best. It will be a behavioral question and then we'll see how we can improve that question.
Okay.
So tell me about a time when you were able to step into a group, take charge, get support, and bring about excellent results.
Okay. So, to answer this question, this takes me back to my marketing and recruitment internship with my alma mater, SPGN School of Global Management. Um, as part of marketing activity, I had the opportunity of conducting diverse events. And this was a proposal from my side to the marketing manager and to the management in general as part of building brand awareness, which would possibly assist in increasing the university's reputation and goodwill in the uh, current place it's situated in. So this internship happened when I was in Singapore. So my aim was to implement diverse events and activities which creates and stirs brand awareness of SPJN as an educational entity amongst the crowd of Singapore. So I took the initiative of implementing and executing a marketing info session, which in very simplistic terms is all about marketing and communicating about your job offerings and no, sorry for the mistake that which is all about communicating the program offerings to different stakeholders like prospective students, and parents of that prospective students, which would most certainly enlighten them in gaining an understanding as to what SPJN has to offer in terms of the quality of education, and would probably help them in exploring and considering SPJN as an option to pursue higher studies. So, as part of implementing this particular information session, one thing I understood is it is impossible for me to do it alone. This can be only done with the help of a team. So, one of the very first things I did was to gather a team of like minded individuals who had the passion for not only marketing in general, but who had the passion of sharing knowledge and who had the interest for education in general, uh, to sort of brainstorm for this event and come up with engaging ideas and event ideas, which makes it a truly successful event. Aside to that, the group that I managed to assemble as part of curating this event, right from curation to execution. We've handled things like project coordination, whereby we found suitable venues to sort of implement this event. And we came up with a proposal, which was then presented to the management team and the internal stakeholders. And eventually, we were given a green signal to implement this event, considering the pros and most importantly, the benefits this event would have when it comes to raising the brand awareness in general. So, this is an example of where I was able to take initiative, which in a slightest way fostered a sense of leadership and accountability. And it also taught me effective project management right from implementing projects from the very start to finish.
Cool. Thank you. This is a good example, but a lot of work needs to come on
Yes.
how you present it. So, one is in terms of context,
Mm-hmm.
make it very simple. So, the issue is
Okay.
when someone is interviewing you, they have no idea of the organization you're talking about, they have no idea of the project you're talking about, and they may
Correct.
even have no idea of the technicalities. So, let's say I'm finance, right? So, I'm interviewing you just because I'm part of the interview panel and you're marketing. So I have
Yes.
no idea about marketing. I have no about your idea about your organization, anything. So you have to make
Mm-hmm.
it very simple for me to understand what the context is. And once you've made it very simple what the context, and even for that matter, if it means that you have to give me an example. So like you know how those events are where you go on an event and they pitch you a particular whatever program. It's those kind of events that I was organizing. So now suddenly I'm like, oh, I understand because I have been those to those events once or twice. Now I understand what kind of organizing the events you are talking about, and I can picture it.
Yes.
And as soon as I can picture it, two things happen. One, I get involved in your example because
Mm-hmm.
I can picture myself being there, and second, I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Next part is when you're done giving the context, give a summary of the challenge. The summary of the
Okay.
challenge was that I was tasked to do this event in
Mm-hmm.
the first of its kind, or at a lower budget, or something, some challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Or first for me, I've never done this before, and this was the first time I was doing an event. Just
Mm-hmm.
summarize the challenge so I know what I need to look for in the actions. This is the first time you are doing a challenge, an event, which is a challenge for you. You've summarized it, and now I'm looking for ways. How did you solve it? What did you do in order to succeed at that challenge?
Mm-hmm.
Then, when you talk about the actions, you have to talk about the actions in steps. So, number
Okay.
one, I gathered the team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, gathering the team because you wanted a team, you said it very well. It was impossible for you to work. So, let me take a step back. For actions,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have three things: why you
Mm-hmm.
did, how you did it, and what you did. Why you did
Yes.
it is it was impossible for you to work alone. You said it. This is the why. What you did was you gathered the team. But then you
Mm-hmm.
didn't talk about the how you did it. You did talk about that you gathered the team in terms of and you like-minded people, but what else? So what you did was you assessed which person has which capabilities, and based on their capabilities and capacities you assigned the task to them. So you broke the task into the project into 5 tasks, and then you collected from everyone what are their passion points, what are their expertise. You did that collection, you matched and mapped with the task, and then you assigned the task. Put some science to it. The way you presented it was like, I got a project, I made a team, we um, coordinated the project, and
Mm-hmm.
then we shared the proposal and it's done. this is
Okay.
very this is very high level and very bookish. What I want to
Okay.
know is the science of it. So when you say I presented the proposal, what was
Mm-hmm.
it? So we presented the proposal in terms of we presented multiple options. Let's say we presented
Okay.
two options. We can do this or we can do
Mm-hmm.
this. And then I did a pros and cons of the options as well. What are the pros
Yes.
on option one, cons and option one, option two, pros and cons. So the management can pick one and decide. Of course, I had
Mm-hmm.
a preferred option as well, which was the one which got selected, and these were the reasons why it got selected.
Okay.
So again, there is some science to it, right? because
Yes.
you can come in an organization and you can tell me, oh, you increase the sales of the business by 10% by doing a marketing activity. That's it.
Mhm.
That could
But
be your
what is
example as well. But exactly, but I want to know, because the same event won't be repeated in the organization you will join. It will be a
correct?
complete different problem, complete different challenge. So as an interviewer, what I want to know is, will you be able to solve those challenges when you join that organization using the
Mhm.
formula or the scientific way, or not? Because if you
Correct.
just tell me superficially, I'm not sure if you know the science behind it. But once you give me the science, I know that whatever problem comes, she will
Mhm.
know that she will gather a team, she'll break the task, she'll assign the task based on the capability and get the work done.
Okay.
Make sense?
Makes sense. So the approach to this sort of questions during the interview is the card approach, where you give a context, then
Yeah.
you go to the action, and the final part of it should be the result.
Yeah, I think I should have called it out, the car approach, which is context, action, result. And exactly.
Mm.
I think you followed the approach. It's just that and that's why I didn't call it out, because you did went through the context, the action, and the result. It's
But
just
I
that
think
the
it needs to
context.
be phrased in a better way.
Yes, yes, exactly. Cool.
Yes.
Let's take one more question before we move toward
Sure.
the end. Can you think of a time when you thought there has to be a better way of doing something, and you came up with an improvement to an existing idea or process that made it significantly better?
Okay, so this question takes me back to my marketing and recruitment internship with SPGN School of Global Management in Singapore. So, during my marketing and recruitment internship, one of the significant tasks that I was given was to collect testimonials and as part of creating and curating a marketing collateral from existing students and from students who have become alumni of the institution. So the marketing team at that point in SPJN had a very traditional way of doing it, whereby uh, they had at that point rolled out physical copy of the forms where students had to sort of fill in the forms and then they submitted to us. This I realized caused inefficiency with respect to time management, and most importantly, it led to a wastage of lot of resources, since the forms that were there were a lot of forms printed out and that was dispensed to the current students and alumni. So as part of tackling this um, challenge without necessarily deviating from my task, one of the propositions that I had made to the marketing manager and the marketing team at that point of time was to collect video testimonials and video feedback from current students and alumni who had already passed out from the institution. So, the advantages of collecting video testimonials and video feedback from current and alumni students who are part of the institution is the fact that uh, there would be a sense of authenticity to the process that we are doing, since okay, for example, if you were a prospective student who was looking to enroll in any of our programs, whether it was undergraduate or postgraduate, when I send out a video testimonial which is a part of marketing collateral, it gives you a sense of authenticity, and also more than authenticity, it helps in building trust, whereby you can see an existing student who has been already talking about his or her experience and how studying in this particular institution has transformed his or her life. So the action taken to tackle this problem, like I said earlier, was to curate video testimonials and video feedback, which was a part of marketing collateral, and this was dispensed in our social media pages. where social media is a tool, as we all know, which has the potential for massive outreach. And posting this on social media did uh, help increasing brand awareness of not only the institution, it also to a certain extent helped prospective students making an informed decision, since they were able to hear the current students speak about their experience, which sort of instilled confidence in the prospective students to take that final call and join the program.
Got it. So you didn't talk about the results, but that's fine. We can skip the. Did you mention in the end what the results were of the project or no?
The results of the project I did, but it was like I felt very vague. Right now
Yeah.
that I'm judging
Yeah.
the way the answer was presented, um, I did vaguely say about the slight increase in brand awareness. Maybe I think I should have, to make that stronger, I should have mentioned about student conversions happening as a result of
Yes. Yes.
this.
Yes. Yeah. I thought it was, or maybe it was just wasn't didn't come out very clear, so I kind of missed it. But the context was very good. The context was
Okay.
very good, very simple, very easy, and in the end, you kind of summarized it for me as well, which is the issue is time management.
Okay.
But I would just change this example altogether.
Okay.
See, there are times when you have to come across as a hero, and for you to come across as a hero, there are two things: either you are a hero,
Yes.
or if you don't feel like one, then you make the problem look so big that
Mm-hmm.
once you've solved the problem, you will come across as hero.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you know about the biblical story of David and Goliath?
Yes.
Yeah. So, David is just a child with a slingshot. This is as boring as it can get. But he ends up being a hero not because he has a slingshot, not because he's a child, but because he kills Goliath. Because Goliath is a monster. So, if you make your problem a monstrous problem, then even if you come with a slingshot, you will end up being a hero. So, I would have done it slightly different. I would have said, historically, we've seen that there was zero engagement or minimal engagement or reducing engagement with the testimonials or with whatever the packages you guys were sending had not the open rate was very low or people were not responding to those packages. Maybe there were sign up sheets in the packages that you were sending and no one was signing up or the signups were reducing.
Mm-hmm.
So what you did was, because now you will also come across as someone who has to be more scientific, right? So the the signups are reducing. So first of all, you analyze why the signups are reducing. So you did some interviews, or even if you didn't do it, I'm just saying you have to kind of exaggerate. So you did some interviews or check with the alumni or the new folks or the people you send the packages to, and they said that they just find it cumbersome to fill the documents. It's coming in a document form. It's a lot of work. It's time wasted, and hence they don't even open the document. And then you started to benchmark versus some other activities which were doing well, and you realize they're more active on social media and they're using more the digital technology. So this way you did a benchmarking exercise, you did a survey. So these are the scientific things you've used. Based on that, you analyzed that in the current process there is a lot of wastage. So this is an analysis. So survey, benchmarking, and now analysis. In the analysis, there is a lot of wastage. Time is being wasted. There is weak response, and we are not able to add value. So again, through the surveys and all, you were able to do this analysis. And then you come to the action and you say, then I did three things. One is video testimonial, the other
Mm-hmm.
is social media, and third one is something else. You have to
Okay.
call them out as three actions that you did. Because if you say them all together in one go, which is I did a
Mm.
video and put it on social media, it seems like you just did one thing.
Okay.
But how about you break it up by saying, first, I decided it has to be video as against going a written testimonial. This is one task. Second, it has to be on social media. Third, it has to have something else. So now there are three actions which the way you spoke seemed like you just did one thing. And I'm going like, such a big problem, important question I asked, and she just tells me one thing she did. But now you say the same thing, but you break it down into saying, I did three things. And suddenly I go like, wow, that was a lot of work. She came up with three different ideas. Essentially, it's the same idea.
Yes,
Does it make sense?
makes sense. One more question that I had was, when it comes to tackling behavioral questions during the interview, what is the time that should be spent on these questions?
Yeah, typically I've seen so interviews around an hour. If you spend 5 minutes, usually you'll get around 5 to 8 questions. If you get 8 questions, that's around 40 minutes. Five
Mm.
minutes per question is around 40 minutes, and then you have 5 minutes for your intro, five
Mm-hmm.
minutes towards the end, which makes it what 50 minutes, and then you have 10 minutes of buffer. So 5 minutes is a good amount of time you should spend on a question. Now, if there is an answer which is very meaty, you have a lot of things to share, maybe six,
Mm-hmm.
7 minutes. It doesn't hurt because
Okay.
it's the example. It's your biggest highlight. You have know a lot about it, so you want to talk more about it, which is fine as long as you're giving value. Like if you have had 5 actions instead of three, maybe you can speak a little bit more. But five is a good number, good
Five
time.
is a good. Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Krishna. So thanks a lot for again signing up for the session. And in case you have any questions, I am very responsive on LinkedIn, so you can drop me a message there on LinkedIn and let me know. Rather, I would love to hear from you. How did you find this session? Was it helpful? Was it valuable? Would love to hear before we end.
Sure. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for inviting me into this coaching session. This was indeed very helpful and, most importantly, enriching, as to in the sense where I got to truly know where I truly stand in terms of my interview preparation. And with the valuable suggestions and feedback that you had given, I do understand now the areas which needs emphasis and which needs more work. And I think this collective feedback that you had given based on my responses would most certainly enhance not just my interview answers. It would enhance my communication skills in general. So there was a lot of emphasis for me with respect to learning the importance of brevity and clarity with respect to communication, especially in the corporate world.
Cool. Thank you, Krishna. Thanks a lot. So, thank you.
So much.
Thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully, after watching this video, a lot of questions that you had pertaining to your career and interview got resolved. In case you found value from this video, you'll find, I'm sure, value from another video on my channel where I talk about how you can go about introducing yourself in an interview. You can check it out here. Other than that, there is another video where I talk about how you can go about controlling your nerves in the interview. You can check it out here. Thank you.